5 cold cases solved in 2020, all 20 years old or more. Number 5. Joe Daniel Stallings was arrested on August 21st, 2020 for the murder of his mother Bobby Ingram and his sister Jody Stallings on January 12th, 1999. He shot them both in the head at their Rockford, Alabama home with a double-barrel shotgun. The bodies were discovered the next morning after the shooting by Jody's boyfriend and father of their 8-month-old daughter, Angel. The 8-month-old was sleeping not 6 feet from her mother when she was murdered, but luckily was not hurt. Speculation over the last 2 decades was that he was involved in the murder somehow. However, the police never had enough evidence to convict him of the crime. The police have not given out a lot of details to the case, only that they have in the past confronted Joe on the killings, and thanks to new forensics, some evidence that was overlooked led to his arrest after 21 years. Earlier this month, investigators interviewed 2 witnesses that were key to the case, 2 people that were living with Stallings at the time of the 1999 double murder. That was his wife and a person who wished to remain anonymous. Authorities said the documents revealed Stallings threatened his wife, ex-wife, and other person living with them at the time. The person that was living, who remains anonymous, that lived with the couple in an interview on August 5th, and then confirmed by a polygraph on August 10th, was in fact with Joe when Ingram and Jody were shot. His trial begins on September 12th, 2020. Number 4. Betty Lee Jones. Betty Lee was a 23-year-old mother of 2 and in an abusive marriage with Robert Ray Jones. They got into an argument into a fight on March 8, 1970, and to escape her abusive husband, got into a blue sedan. They were only married for 9 days when the fight broke out. He left the home in his car, and she was last seen trying to flag down a ride, getting into a car with an unknown male. I cannot stress how this is never a good idea, because the devil you don't know could always be a lot worse than the devil you do. Betty was sexually assaulted, then strangled, and then shot in the head and dumped off the highway the highway leaving Boulder, Colorado. Her naked body was found the next day on the side of the highway. The case was cold for over 50 years, and thanks to using a genealogy site, they found the DNA belonged to Paul Leroy Martin, who died back in 2012 at the age of 84. Paul was a lifelong criminal and died in prison for an unrelated crime. However, his DNA was never taken as he was never arrested for a violent crime. The police say that his DNA may match other slayings in Colorado from 1970 to 1990, and is possibly a serial killer. However, they have not confirmed this yet, as they say some of these investigations are ongoing. If he was alive today, he would have been arrested and charged with Betty's murder on August 7th, 2020. Ladies, if you're in an abusive relationship, please seek help from close family and friends. Get away from the person who's abusing you as soon as possible. There are many shelters out there that can help you and take you in. Never let his family or friends know that you're planning on leaving or where you plan to go. Number 3. Pamela Rose Aldridge McCall and 2 Jane Does. McCall's body was found on March 10, 1991, with torn clothing, undergarments, and obvious injuries to the neck and face. Evidence and witnesses' statements indicated that she may have been traveling with a trucker. Not much is actually known about McCall, as if she was hitching a ride or possibly a prostitute. Her family said she was a wild person and can't rule out anything she could have been doing at the time of her death. However, her best friend, who wished to stay anonymous, said she was in a bad relationship with her boyfriend and she just fled to get out of there as soon as possible. When she was killed, she was 24 weeks pregnant. The father of the child is still unknown to this day. Clark Perry Baldwin, his sperm was collected from pantyhose McCall was wearing at the time of her death, and that DNA linked to 2 other murders of 2 women who remain unidentified to this day. They are known as Bitter Creek Betty and I-90 Jane Doe. His DNA also matched the DNA on 3 other killings. However, the tests have been inconclusive. Therefore, these 3 women won't be mentioned here, as he has not yet been charged for these murders. However, 2 other murders with no DNA he is suspected of, and one he was just cleared of last week. He was arrested on May 18, 2020, at his home without a fight. The officer said when they knocked, he opened the door and looked stunned to see them there. When the police asked him if they knew why the police were at his door, he said, and grinned, "I think I have a good idea." Since it's confirmed that he's killed at least 4 people, 3 women and an unborn child, he has been classified as a serial killer, and authorities are positive he has many more victims out there. Number 2. This is a very odd one. Very, very odd one. So the very badly decomposed body of a woman was found at Rogers Cornfield in Iowa. Her remains were found on October 27, 1981, but police think she was killed as early as 1979. To this day, she has never been identified. Her skull was crushed by accident by a tractor on Rogers Cornfield. However, they always suspected it was possibly a homicide because her clothes were found together not far from where her body was found. They were folded up nice and neatly and put right by her body. Inside the pockets of her jeans was a necklace, 2 rings, an unopened pack of cigarettes, and a lighter, as well as a piece of paper that said, "It's been fun, XOXO." They think she was strangled at the time of her death because the evidence showed strangulation. However, on August 18, 2020, the cornfield was being excavated to put in a new trench, and a box was found where her body was discovered in 1981. Inside the box were letters between Mary and Mark, along with some other items. One of the letters was written from Mary to Mark, but was never given to him. Basically stated that she knows that he cheated on her with a woman from the bar and that she no longer wanted to live and planned on killing herself. That letter was dated November 28, 1979. Police now have enough evidence to rule it as suicide, as they never found a weapon or any DNA or trace evidence that it was a homicide, only that she was strangled. They believe whatever she used to strangle herself with, that was tied to a high fence post nearby. When the tractor ran over her remains and crushing her skull, the ligature must have been picked up by the muddy tires, as during October-November gets muddy in those fields. They said they could have solved this case perhaps a lot earlier had the accident with the tractor never happened. Number 1. Marcy Belize was a 12-year-old runaway from Spokane, Washington. She ran away from home on August 3, 1985. The details of why she ran away have never been made public. However, suspicions of sexual assault inside the family have always been rumored in the past to be the reason. She was found dead the next day in an impound lot. She was sexually assaulted and stabbed 29 times. Locals thought someone in her family did it. However, they took the DNA from the family and ran it against the samples they found at the crime scene, and no match was made. And no one related to the family could have done it because the DNA did not match even the mitochondrial DNA. On April 17, 2020, they did a genealogy match at Parabon Nanolabs and got a hit on relatives of the killer, and found that the killer was to be, at the time, 22-year-old Clayton Geese, raised in Montana. However, he was killed in a rollover car accident on January 13, 1989. He had no major felonies. It is said that Marcy was at a party the night before her body was found, and that Clayton may have spotted her leaving the party alone, offered her a ride, and took her to the impound lot, and then committed the crime. There's 133 unsolved murders in Spokane, and for such a small city, they have a very dark past. His DNA has not been linked to any other murders in Spokane. Her family has not made a comment or made a public appearance on the news and are staying out of the spotlight. However, her case back then did make national news and was even a candidate for an episode of the hit series Unsolved Mysteries, but was not chosen to be on the show. Thank you for watching. If you have any cases you would like me to feature, please email me at coldcasewarrior5@gmail.com or comment below.